This is the Black Nerd Talks podcast. This is your main host, Eb. I'd like to tell you a little bit about me before we start. I'm a social worker and men's rights advocate with an extensive history in competitive esports such as Guilty Gear, Gundam vs. and Street Fighter. I hope that today's episode will provide you with some nerd self-help through deep conversational interviews and open discussions where you hear the stories and perspectives of our fellow nerds. Join us as we uncover the themes and messages found in the mediums of anime, video games, and as well as comic books and how we can apply the life lessons found in them to deal with our everyday struggles. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Discord, all under the same name and logo of Black Nerd Talks. Follow us to let us know what you think of the latest episodes. We'd love to hear your feedback. Following us will also allow you to keep up with when we drop the latest and newest episodes. We also have an Etsy shop where if you search Black Nerd Talks, you can find our Black Nerd Talks t-shirts and crew necks if you'd like to support the podcast. Alright, so we're going to be talking about Platinum End, the difference in terms of finding happiness or finding your purpose in life. I think this would be a great conversation to have. I have some great, one of them is a guest and one of them is, the great co-host himself. We got
Hyushi-sama here. Hello everyone. Very excited to dive into Platinum End once again.
And we
got Jordan over here. I'm back on the show. I'm happy to be back. I can't wait to discuss happiness and purpose.
Yeah.
In Platinum End with these guys. So let's go.
So the last time we had you on was talking about Code Geass and just moving past betrayal. So
yeah. And
Yushi's here for like most episodes, so he knows what's up. So I'm gonna just start off by like one of the quotes of Mirai's mom, the main character in Platinum End, and then we'll just go off from there. The thing that his mom told him at the beginning of the show, just before they got blown up. Shout out to in-laws. Everyone is born with the goal of finding happiness, and everyone lives with the aim of attaining even greater happiness. I wanted to know what you guys thought of that, and also how would you define happiness, and how would you define purpose? I know who wants to go first, and we'll just go at it from there.
Honestly, I just really like Mirai was kind of like grown into this kind of like follow your dreams thing from a very young age. Mm-hmm. And just through all of that just craziness with like the uncles and like the family and everything, he still like held on to like his beliefs when it was crushed. It's like, I remember we were just talking about kind of going for something and then like you have the adrenaline is kind of just crushed. Like happiness is something that we choose. So it's, when you acquire this thing that we choose and just lose it, whether it's just like a belief or anything, it's very crushing. But like at the same time too, as long as you choose to be like happy, like can always remain happy at the same time. It's always a choice. But I do like how like with Mirai, just how everything was like his whole reality was just crushed for a moment. Like when he first, like when he seen the true feelings of just everything around him. When he unfortunately tried to commit suicide, it was just I feel that still. This was like your happiness and everything. You're holding on to this. And that's honestly a really sick way to like open a show. Just like talking about all the happiness and it's like, yeah.
And it was in the first episode.
Yeah, first episode, that's some true Death Note stuff.
In case those who don't know, the creator of the show is also the same creator of Bakuman, the manga about manga. I'm pretty sure you know about that one, Jordan.
Which
manga.
One?
There's a manga about, it's like basically the ultimate manga for Aizumar, Hyushi, which is it's a manga about a mangaka, someone who makes manga. Mangaception.
Mangaception.
Yeah.
That's really
it has an anime for it, so they made that show, and they also the same person that did Death Note. I say they because no one knows about. I can't remember the creator's name, but no one knows if the creator's male, female, nothing. No one knows what they look like. They kept it super low key. No one knows anything about them other than they made these 3 different.
I like
series.
that concept. I like that.
But yeah, so like, what do you think about just the idea of everyone's here to find happiness, and also like, how would you define happiness and how would you define purpose?
First of all, I think that the mother. When did this is Mirai's mother, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Mirai's mother
at the beginning.
So was this during his flashback when she said this? Oh, okay, so it makes
She
sense.
definitely is not coming back from like heaven.
Yeah, or like, okay, so it makes sense. What do I think? So personally, I think that happiness is probably 4 things. I think that it's, joy, contentment. I guess you can put that into one. I think it's fulfillment, purpose, and having meaning. I think those 4 things can make up.
So say them again.
Joy, contentment, mixed into one.
Right.
And then you have meaning. You have purpose. And then what was the last one? I just said it. Well, it's gonna come back to me. Yeah, so I think that those 4 things actually make up. Well, to me, this is how I define it. Right. I think it makes up happiness. But it's interesting that she says that because you also have to realize. I feel like, especially when you're a kid, you don't really know your true. I mean, I guess you can feel that you're happy, right, when you're a kid, but it's not until you grow up, looking back, and then you tell yourself, "Whoa, I was truly happy back then." And I think it's pretty common when you look at the show. Like Mirai is always having that flashback to when he was a kid. He was happy. So I definitely don't think that happiness is like a conscious effort. Like you think about it and you say, "You know what? I'm going to go be happy." I don't think
BRB guys. I'm gonna go be happy. I'm gonna go pick up some happiness.
It's like you know what? I have a goal of purpose. Okay, let me go be happy. Right now I'm gonna decide to be. It's like it's very hard to do, right? I feel like happiness is one of those things that's subconsciously done, but you can plan for it, right? But I feel like while it's happening, it's mostly happening on a subconscious level, and then you just start to realize, whoa, I am happy,
right?
Because it was always there, and then it goes back to what I was saying last time when we were discussing this at the barbecue, that there's this one quote from Code Geass. Have you watched Code Geass, by the way?
I only watched like the very beginning. I didn't dive too much into it.
He hasn't dived into it yet. It's yet.
Yet, okay. So I highly recommend you watch that. Yeah, so I highly recommend you watch it. But there's that one part. Yeah, so it was Lelouch. For people who may not know, Code Geass is my favorite anime of all time. But there's this one scene with Nanali, Lelouch, and Suzaku, and then they're having a discussion on what happiness looks like, right? And then I think it was...
I think it was Nanali.
It was Suzaku.
It was Suzaku?
Yeah, so it was just Suzaku. Lelouch asked the question, like, if happiness was to take a physical form, how would that look like? And Suzaku replied that, I think that happiness resembles a glass. Meaning that...
Wasn't it a snow globe?
No.
Wasn't it a snow globe? Okay.
No. So, it resembles a glass. So it's always there, but we just don't realize it. And it's not until we change the position of the glass where it reflects the light, then we start to notice it.
I could agree with that one. I like that.
So when it said that, it's like, I think that's what happiness is, right? It's something that's so subconsciously done that is not until you consciously realize it that you're actually happy back then.
That is actually like really cool, because you know how I like briefly said like kind of like happiness a choice. There's things that like you choose to like kind of like make you happy, like I grew up liking this, makes me happy, whatever. But it really gets more depth than that, because it's like what you said, there's a glass, and it's all about like the angle and perspective of like how you look at like your life, because there's many things around us that like kind of like make us happy, we're content with, and we all like have our own purpose, because we're all like brought up in communities, families, and everything. So we're kind of like given like a purpose from like a very young age. Kind of like what Mariah's like, just live a good life, whatever, and just like find your happiness. With all the things like around us, like our minds get clouded still. Like with everything, it's like, and just like a lot of things, it could really just like cloud your mind. But like when you really just like change your perspective and really just like take in whatever you need to take in, I'm truly happy. So can someone be like truly experience true happiness? Will there always be like a different perspective where if you just shift it, you could get unhappy? So it's like it's really fickle in a sense.
So that's where I was going to get at, to be honest with you.
The key word is perspective.
Yeah.
So that's the key word right there. If you just change your perspective, because it's always there, right? It's within us. Like literally right now, but we just don't realize it. We just have to change our perspective.
Yeah. It's something that's internal. But at the same time, what I was gonna actually say is it's fleeting. Nothing lasts forever. Because like if you're going through hardship, like, you're probably not gonna be happy. Like if you're going through objective hardship, like you lost a family member, you got fired from your job, you're probably not gonna be happy. You can have gratitude, but you're not gonna be happy. Like happiness is a very fleeting thing. That's how I see it. So, you know, that's kind of like what we see with Mirai throughout the show, in the sense of he was told constantly and was constantly reiterating, like, I should spend my life trying to find happiness. But for me, the thing that I kept seeing, which is why I guess overall I enjoyed the show. The second half I didn't enjoy as much as the first half, with the dichotomy it had between Metropoliman, Uryu, and Mirai, in the sense of the more Metropoliman did things, the more it kind of deviated Mirai's direction that he was going in the sense that it went from like, I need to be happy, to realizing that this guy is keeping other people from being happy, and I have to take this guy out in order for other people to be happy, because as long as he's around, other people will suffer, other people's happiness will be taken away. And I feel like that's really where I really feel like that's what people are looking for. They're looking for a reason to do, and actually, which actually goes into my question for you, Jordan. What's the difference between meaning and purpose? Because you said meaning and purpose along with contentment, something else, or the reason why is it culminates to happiness. What's the difference between me?
Oh, so I said purpose, meaning, fulfillment, and then contentment and I guess joy into one. Yeah. Meaning and purpose. Okay, so this is how I see it. For me, purpose is more of what's the goal, what's your intention, right? If I just had to simplify things, so that's purpose for me. So, meaning is much more profound in that it's what's the bigger picture. Why is it that, for example, like I could give you an example. I could give you a really good example. So let's say you have a student who doesn't know what they want to do, right? But then they decide, okay, you know what? Let me go explore some careers, and let me go try to find something. But remember, while they're exploring the career, they also want to be secured, right? So then their purpose here is also to find a job so that they can make money.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? But their meaning outweighs that purpose in a way in a way that, okay, you know what? I want to be a nurse because I find a lot of meaning into that. The meaning that, like, for example, I get to save lives. Right. That's the reason, even though like this job here is so stressful, emotionally draining, and I'm putting myself at risk, but I'm doing it in a way that I'm saving life, and that is such a profound meaning to people that it kind of outweighs the purpose. Okay,
so from what I'm understanding, you're kind of saying that like purpose shifts from one point to another.
Exactly, because it's just a goal, right? Like the purpose, like you would hear a lot of people say, well, the purpose of a job is to get paid. Okay. See what I'm saying?
That's facts.
So it doesn't carry a lot of substance when you really think about it. But you can also use purpose as a way, for example, to say, oh, you know, well, my purpose to live is for my kids, right? You can use them interchangeably, but which is why I say, in my opinion, I think that meaning carries way more weight than purpose. Yeah, so,
okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's the way I see things. What about you? What do you think the difference between
meaning and purpose?
Meaning and purpose.
Well, if there is any for you.
Yeah, if there is.
Well, so like I feel like they're kind of the same, but also like different from my perspective, because like when you have like a purpose, you kind of like go with like a purpose can be given, you know, a purpose can be like really anything if you really think about it. So I could be given an objective, I know what the outcome is going to be, but it can be like just like a really basic purpose. But like when you add the extra layer of like meaning behind it, it's I'm doing this for like a specific reason. That's why I liked how you explained it. The difference between meaning and purpose is the same thing, but it's very different at the same time, because when, just like to use myself as examples, I create art. I could say that I create art because I'm good at it. You know, this is my purpose. That's a very basic thing. When it goes like deeper into it, it's like I have a meaning, and I have like a real like ambition and like a true like my own calling towards this. I know what I want to do with it. I want to share this kind of joy, my mindset and everything, you know, because this is what it means to me to like create art, to consume art. These things that give me life, what it means to be me, because I do these things, you know? That's really the difference between meaning and purpose to me, in a sense.
That's a good example. I think I should use more self-examples.
Yeah, that's what
really
it's about.
Good. I like that.
Yeah, self-examples are where it's at when it comes to this podcast. I like the reason I bring different guests such as yourself is because you're a unique person with unique experience that you can talk about your life experiences in the ways in which we can relate it to anime. And you're part of the demographic I aim to reach out to, which is young men. I mean, I think most of my demographic is men. I don't know if I think I shared that with you, right? When we looked at the analytics, like, is this like it's like 2% women? It's like 2. No, I think it might have been 10. It might have been 10%, but it's definitely not past 10%. And then it's just all men. It's just what it is. Going back on the anime and a little bit in terms of perspective, I feel like a lot of people are constantly focused on trying to be happy. Not realizing that happiness is a fleeting thing. Like, there's so many, like, as much as Mirai's mom is saying, you know, we exist, you know, to be happy. Like, there's so many things that we could do that would make us happy. How would I word this? If we were to engage in those things, we wouldn't be happy. Just from the sheer concept, I know you know this because you did economics a little bit, and you're probably aware of it because you're into stocks, which is a law of residual return. The law of residual return means that the more you do the more you do the same thing, every time you do it, you're going to derive less enjoyment. And for me, enjoyment is kind of tied to happiness. Like, we could all three of us, I'm willing to bet we can all be in agreement. Like, we could, like, well, nothing will make us more happy than to just be able to be at home. Everything's already taken care of, and we can just watch anime all day.
Yeah. If I didn't have to worry about expenses and all that stuff,
anime all day. But I guarantee you, like, maybe a day or two in, you're big, this ain't it anymore. I'm kind of, maybe not a day or two, but you're gonna start thinking about maybe like a week after, a month after, whatever. There's gonna be a point where you're big. To be honest with you, I kind of want to start doing things again. I don't want to just sit here and watch anime.
That's what happened during the pandemic, though. I think that's what happened during the pandemic.
You were also working on an app.
Yeah, I was, but at this
like, this guy's working on a whole app, so it doesn't.
No. But like, I'll give you an example. So, for example, you know when you're a kid, you're like, oh man, I just want to get paid while doing nothing. The pandemic came, right? And then a lot of people's dreams got realized. They were getting paid, especially if you're 16 and older. You know, you're getting paid for doing nothing. So now you're just at home, right? And you're getting paid. But then a lot of people start to become more depressed because they realize that the longer you do that,
you're isolated.
You're isolated. It's just not healthy. But then, just to touch on your point, there's actually this theory. I think it's called the theory of happiness. That when you seek it, like, very good chance that you're not going to find it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and the more you seek it, the more it kind of like runs away from you. So it's pretty interesting what you just said right there.
Yeah, I feel that very much like Mirai, I feel like a lot of young men, I would say, should focus on finding something that matters to them. Find something that gives them meaning. And it's not like I need to, I don't know, I know it's very on the nose for me to say, it's like to have the most successful podcast out there. Yes, I know it's very tongue-in-cheek because, you know, we're doing a podcast. Or I need to have a very successful manga and comic series, or to create my own social media. Like, it doesn't need to even be those. Like, I'll go somewhere with this in the sense of, so for me, one of my forms of purpose and meaning is to take care of my wife. So that's driven me further to work on the podcast, to do the things I do as a social worker, to do the things that to constantly be engaged with my creative side as well as my community work side, and just learning how to like find different ways of doing things, because the more I'm able to do, the more I'm able to give her and to make her feel secure and safe. That's and deep. I say that in a sense of tying that to like it all really came from originally like wanting to, how would I word it, to create my monument. So like, fun fact to go a little bit about me, the movie was trash, to preface this, but Batman v Superman, when Superman died in the movie, spoiler alert in case you didn't see a movie that came out like right, you didn't see a movie that came out like 6 years ago, Yeah, 6 years ago. Haha. Is that when Superman dies, his plaque had a really powerful impact on me, which was it came from an architect, where their quote was originally from, which is, and it goes into like even my appreciation for my grandfather, in a sense of the plaque says, if you seek his monuments, look around you. And when you look around, all the people that Superman touched, had impacted, who saved, and that's something that I want in my life. If you seek his monuments, look around you. It's not actual physical buildings, but you can see what he built with the lives of others. Not killing them before someone's like, oh, he's a killer. No, literally having a positive impact on people. And so that's where I'm at. Is leaving an impact and having a legacy that people can remember. Maybe not even necessarily me, but the message I was trying to share with others. I say it in a sense of like, I never met my grandfather. He passed away in Nigeria from diabetes, but his message of communication, which you know this as you're Congolese, like I'm half Nigerian, so like, and you're of Jamaican descent, like Caribbean African fathers aren't trying to talk, especially about their feelings.
Yeah.
Let alone when they're born back in like 1922 Nigeria, Jamaica, like feelings. Do you have food? Is your school paid for?
Yep.
Do you have clothes? Why are we talking? Go to school. Right? But my grandfather always preached like communication with the family and him being close with his kids. And that had an impact on my dad. And that my dad passed it on to me. And now I'm being able to share that with my wife. This is a man who was born in like 1910 Nigeria. 1910, most likely. His message is having an impact on a young woman in 2022, a century later, from a different country. There's no way he would have met her or her family, but he's having an impact on her, and that impact that's having on her through me is having an impact on her family. So his message, this man from my family, who I've never met, is having an impact on someone that he's never met. I think that's insane, right? So that's more part of his monument. Or part of his monument. This conversation is part of his monument. It's fast. Yo, you look like you're just like processing everything I just said.
It's just cool. Honestly, I'm just like daydream about like things that kind of like make me happy. That's honestly, because as you're speaking about that, it's like, it's very like motivational and very inspirational in the way how you explain it. Just like the whole, just like developing happiness around you, communicating, building, and just doing what you have to do, like with the purpose, true meaning, and everything. And I'm here just sitting down thinking like, yo, honestly, I just want to do so much great things and then just make a really positive impact, and also just compete and just win a lot and just be awesome. I'm just like, yo, this is just dope. It's very inspirational because like the way how I personally am, I'm a person who kind of likes to lead by example. I don't really like saying things a lot, doing all these things. I like literally being that person where I'm charging first, or I know what to do first. I'm just going to go and do what I have to do. I kind of like, I don't like having to be like, oh, you have to do this, that, this. I want to be that example. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's how like I leave my impact around like my surroundings in a sense.
And you see that with the youth that you work with in Malvern, right?
Yeah,
like
legit.
You were telling me about some of them who just like, he hasn't even seen them in months or years, and they're like, yo, remember that thing you told me?
Mm-hmm. And like some people come back, it's like, yo, one-on-one in ball, you trying to get that works? Because people who I played since they're young, they're, yo, you brought me into this whole...
Kind of.
It's just like playing a lot, competing a lot, just like going in and just doing what you have to do and just kind of, exactly, always pushing yourself nonstop. Even when they see me like down, I'm always like back up. I'm not the kind of person, at least to me, I'm not the kind of person where if I'm on a battlefield, quote unquote, I won't give up, if that makes sense. Try to like stress the whole fact, just keep on following what you want to do. Keep on like pursuing, keep on going forward. If something knocks you down, get right back up. Yeah, I seen ripple off onto like some of my youth, and it's really cool. I'll see some of the kids challenge me non-stop, and they'll lose and lose and lose. I went through that when I was younger with my brother. Like, I'll challenge him non-stop, and I'll lose and lose and lose. But that also pushed me to greater heights in different levels because I was always pushed from a young age. I see these kids develop really fast. Their mindset, like, changes. Sometimes they get too cocky, but it's good to see them get that sense of like motivation, and just even when they lose, they're still kind of that, oh yeah, I'm still going in, I'm still cocky, you know, I will win next time, I'll be back, don't worry.
I just want to talk on this. I just want to add a little bit on this point. I feel like what you just said right there will pass a lot of people. I think that there's so much joy and thrill in competition that a lot of people do not realize. Like for me personally, I think that competition is one of the most beautiful thing you can have, because it's sort of also like a compliment. Imagine this. Imagine you create something and then somehow, let's say a giant company sees this and they're trying to copy like one of your feature, right? Like that is one of the greatest honor you can have, because now here you are with barely any resources, little influences, but then you have this giant with thousands of people backing them with unlimited funding copying you. I feel like that's one of like the most craziest things.
Imitation's a form of flattery.
It's exactly. So I mean, man, like he's right. When I created that app called Lomami, the camera app, the first day it launched, right? I remember it passed Text Me, like the free app where you can, you know, like you can text for broke guys, you know. So it, so you know, it passed that. When I saw that, I was like, no way. Imagine going from using that app when you're really young because you don't have enough money to passing them. Yeah. But then after that, of course, they passed me back because they have much more momentum than I do, right? But just having that taste of competition was just like so rewarding, because it's like, I worked so hard for this.
You put in the work, and you know.
And then it wasn't until I saw it and I started to process what was happening, I was like, damn, I'm pretty happy right now. This feels good. And then so the point you made was pretty interesting, because I was reminded of that. So
I want to just expose Yushi a little bit. So this guy's saying how he kind of has impact on youth. If you go to any of his areas in Malvern, the youth are literally like Bati and bench with him. Like they're literally like right behind him wherever he goes. This guy's like, oh, you're kind of. I'm just like, no, they're literally like following him wherever he goes. He walks into the office, they're standing at the office because they can't enter the office. So they'll stand right at the office or just wait for him to come back. Then he'll come back out. They'll follow him into the gym, and then they'll follow him into like outside. They'll literally follow him wherever he goes. They'll even follow him to Smash Bros tournaments. They follow him literally wherever he goes. I don't remember their names. I just know them as like, oh, it's the ones that are always right behind Ithamar. Who, if I simply like, do you know what Ithamar is? Yeah. I don't know, bro. I don't know who he is. Stop pressing me. The other thing I kind of want to bring up is that I feel like it's also important, because I want to talk about this in terms of it's a heavy aspect of this conversation that needs to be talked about, because Platinum Men starts off with suicide, in the sense of you're remembering that, right? The two students, in the sense of, so fun fact, Japan doesn't have the highest suicide rate. It's actually South Korea. There's actually documentaries on it. In fact, South Korea is like significantly higher than other countries. Japan is 12 per, like 12, I think it's suicide. I think it's 12 suicides per 100,000 people. 12. South Korea, 24. No, 20. Nearly double.
And it's interesting. I wouldn't have known that. I know
it's not talked about.
Yeah.
But it comes from the students, which is, I just wanted to read it. It was, where is it? I'll end myself if I get rejected. I can't go to a different college. My life is over. Because it's such a high expectation, and I kind of also want to temper the importance of finding something that's important with you. It's the reason why I brought in my wife, in the sense of, it's also important not to externalize what gives you meaning and purpose. In the sense of, Mom, or I'm half of you, I'm half of you. Especially on the African side. It's on the Caribbean side, but it's especially on the African side. If you do not become a medical doctor, for those that don't, they probably weren't ready for the Nigerian accent. If you don't become a medical doctor, not a doctor, medical doctor, you are a disgrace to the family. Yep. We all know those family members who are stressed out going to med school, who are stressed out to be an engineer, because those are the only careers that matter, not necessarily creating an app, not becoming an illustrator, right? And because you're not being those things, you're a disappointment. So you're constantly pressuring yourself to be something that you're not. And so once that thing doesn't work out for you because you've convinced yourself that your life is older, your life is over, right? I need to be making 100K. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just be happy being a teacher. I think maybe you just be happy with all your students getting like an average of a C++, because not everyone can get an A+. It's not realistic. But at least, the average is a C+ to B- every year for you. Maybe that's the most important thing for you. Maybe the most important thing for you is to just have a healthy, happy family. But as long as there's something that you're working towards that you've determined that matters for you, that's the most important thing. Like, no one told me that I need to make, once again, my wife my most important person. In fact, when we look at Mirai, like I said, it started off with the idea that I need to find my happiness, I need to focus on that. But eventually it changed into, It changed into I need to protect the happiness of others, right? Because what was the quote? I just wanted to read that. Yeah. Someone like Metropoliman, this is Mirai saying this, someone like Metropoliman who threatens the happiness of others isn't fit to become God. He determined that himself, and that's when he was more willing to use the white arrow for certain situations. And not even just willing to actually fire off the red arrow, and then willing to just even bring out the white arrow, right? Because that's something that he wasn't willing to do, because I didn't want to harm anybody. But he came to realize that some people are hurtful, and it's not like someone told him to do it. Like, it's like Mukaido told him, or Saki told him. He determined that himself. And then from there, it became Saki, both him and I know you want to talk about this. The thing that the most important thing in person that mattered to Mirai was Saki, the girl. You remember his girlfriend, wife, and then for Saki, it was the same thing with Mirai. But it happened over time. It wasn't forced, it wasn't demand, and it wasn't them depending on each other's happiness, but them deriving happiness from one another. It's two different things. But it happens over time. And it should be you that determines it versus like having someone else tell you what's your most important thing, because you'll never be happy. You'll never, or as Gordon put it, you will never be fulfilled.
Yeah, I agree.
That's cool. I was also thinking of in Bakuman, because I read like the first couple like chapters. They spoke about how
this is the same from the same creator as Death Note and Platinum Man, right?
Yeah, same creator. There was a artist. So the main character, he basically wanted to become a mangaka, like he wanted to become an illustrator because I think it was like his uncle used to create comics, but he used to create like gag comics apparently and stuff. But his gag comics will get like random bursts of sales, but then they'll be off the face of the earth. So he said that like when he was young, he used to just always see his uncle just in his room, just kind of kicking it, just drawing all the time. He never really left his room. But when he did leave his room and everything, and when he did go inside the room, there was manga, amazing, bare comics, the shelves. And then like one random day, he just like passed away. So like the rumor was he committed suicide because he wasn't a successful manga creator. And I think that like that's what he was told to believe the whole time, that he just committed suicide because of the sales. But I remember as the story progressed, because I read a bit into it, I stopped. It was, he didn't really like commit suicide. He created his manga and continued creating. Eventually, like, he just passed away. I don't know the truth. I don't know the meaning why he passed away. Right. But they tried kind of changing the narrative at a certain point where it was, that wasn't the reason. Like, he enjoyed his manga and like he did what he could. For some reason, he just like passed away. But it was like a rumor because he wasn't making that much money. But yeah, it's just cool because I think about that too. Because as like an artist, I'm always trying to create the comic. There was a point in my life, the only sort of fulfillment I got was my comic or just my ambitions, what I'm doing. If that was taken away from me, like, how would I feel? Thing is, I always created and created and created and created. Like, I never really stopped. But also too, like, I had to come to a realization where I have to take charge and actually really do this because I'm trying to become a comic book creator, mangaka. Still gotta make money, still gotta make end means, you still gotta do what you gotta do, still gotta hustle.
Man still gotta eat.
Man still gotta eat at the end of the day.
It's hard out here.
If art ever disappeared, would I be unhappy? Yes, I would be unhappy. At the same time too, art can never disappear from me. Because it's my choice to put time into this. We have a love-hate relationship. I learned not to force it, like as you said. When I don't want to create sometimes, I just don't create. But there's never a time I don't want to create. If I sit down and I'm watching anime and I see like something cool, inspiration, I need to draw. You know, that's a piece.
The man's got an itch.
Yeah, I get that itch. That's just like with me. Like I get like impulse to do things that I want to do. Just like basketball, gaming, competition, specific competitive things. Could be anything, yo. Like we could play a game of tic-tac-toe. We could go at it for hours, but like probably not that serious though, because tic-tac-toe. Like at some point, someone's gonna be like, all right, that
switch up.
Yeah.
Unless it was I win, then you win, I win. It's like, all right, who wins 2 times in a row? Then we're done. And something like that. But like,
that's not a 3. Yep.
So gotta end somewhere. I like the whole idea of, you know, forced happiness, the diminishing return, and just kind of like going with the flow. It's a really cool thing because it's like, don't really like force things. If something's not meant to be, it won't come. It's meant to be, like it'll gradually work its way in, and it will. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a meaning to why we're doing. It's interesting. I just like how, like, with Mirai and Saki, what's her name?
Saki, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like Mirai never really like forced anything, and Saki was in her own world. They were both developing as their own characters, but they recognized each other.
Paralleled with each other. Yeah, I agree.
But they recognized each other, and like it was never like something where it was like, oh, you know, like, because you don't like me, I don't really like you, or something like that. It was more like, oh, you're a cool person, but we're both developing, and you figure things out. They still stayed connected throughout the whole way. It was never really forced, and they went through experiences with each other. They got to fight with each other, and I think that's a huge thing too. Cause
when did that happen again?
When
did that happen? When did they get into a fight again?
Not a fight. I said they got to fight alongside. What I meant.
Oh, fight alongside.
I said fight with each other, as in like fight alongside.
Yeah.
They get to like actually fight alongside with each other and get to grow with each other over time.
Build a relationship.
Mm-hmm. And it was all through basic adversity too. It was okay. We're going through things, and we work through all of these things, and they kind of solidify their bond. And that's something that happened with family too. Like we all grow with our family, we all solidify like a strong bond with each other. And then they say like as humans we're social beings, so these things also give us energy and give us happiness. Growing family and all of it, like at the core of it. At the end of the day,
family brings happiness.
You shouldn't really force it. Just like you can't even like force family. Family will just always be there to begin with. It's always there. But everything else, like, you shouldn't force it. If something's meant to be, it's going to be.
Were you about to say?
Yeah, I'm going to ask him a question. Do you think that Saki always loved Mirai?
No, I don't think so.
When do you think it was realized then?
I think it was realized, to be honest.
What are you asking? When did she realize that she loved Mirai?
Yeah.
Okay. I have my
And for what reason?
For what reason?
Yeah.
Okay, so that
is huge, you know, in the show.
Honestly, I feel like in the beginning, when Saki was kind of unhappy in the beginning because she always felt that like she needed to do everything, kind of like fake her happiness most of the time to like to just adapt, make everyone happy, make sure everyone's good, but she forced it so hard to the point she became unhappy. So I feel like when it came with Mirai, they were always around each other, always friends. It wasn't something where it was, okay, I have to force this. It kind of happened gradually, in a sense. I feel like that's just like a huge thing where they kind of developed this relationship and bond gradually as things were happening, but both of them were going through their own things. At the end of the day, they're both going through their own things, and it really developed over time. I think it really started to happen, like she really started to realize it when I'll say like after Metropoliman. I feel like
Metropoliman.
It was Metropoliman. I feel like it was after those moments. We went through all of this. We experienced what it means to lose because they lost their comrade on the field. They developed stronger,
There's a really good theory on that one too.
Yeah, they developed stronger bonds facing through like all the things they went through from like childhood. Yeah, adversity, as I said earlier. It's like they went through all of these things, and they developed that strong bond. In the beginning, it was just Mirai. Oh yeah, you know, I've known you for a long time.
Wasn't Mirai always still under the influence of the Red Arrow?
No, it stopped by episode 3. It was over.
Right. Okay.
I think even by the end of episode 2. And then that's when she realized, like, yo, this guy actually likes me. He's not faking it.
Mm-hmm. He always did from the get-go. Like, from his childhood, he said. They seen the flowers or whatever. Some ladybug story, I forgot.
And happiness. It was always, oh my gosh, let's be happy together. That was just, oh my gosh, let's be happy together. But yeah.
So I do think that after they did go through some, adversity, that Saki probably developed some sort of affection towards him. But I do think in the beginning that most of the things that Saki was doing that she thought that was for Mirai was I truly believe it was out of guilt, because if we analyze exactly Saki's behavior, she tends to do things to make other people happy because she wants to atone for what happened in the past.
Because she's not allowed to be happy.
Exactly, because she's not allowed to be happy. So the question is, and this is kind of hard for me to realize, but I'm trying to realize, when was that moment that Saki truly loved him? Like, you know how you can just see,
so
you can just see in their eyes, there's that aha moment.
So it was when Mirai did some gangster shit, which was like when he pretended to drop her. That was when everything snapped.
Oh yeah,
I remember. Okay, now I remember. Yeah,
that was when everything snapped, because the thing is, she felt, and it was their conversation afterwards, because like she was just like, because one of her friends was just like, oh, why can't you? So people were like, how did this guy remember everything in the show? I rewatched the first half like literally last night, so everything's fresh in my mind. Her friend was like, yo, that weirdo, there's soccer weirdo still watching you, fam. Like, what are you gonna do about that? She's like, yo, Mirai, that's my dogs. He's my dogs. He's also my bodyguard. She's like, oh yeah, I thought you guys were dating. She's like, nah, fam. Mans can't date. Yeah. And then we later find out she didn't want to date him because she felt like she doesn't deserve happiness because she didn't stand up for him and was actually played along in peer pressure into bullying him. Mm-hmm. So it was only when Mira was just like, oh yeah, you want me to kill you? You really feel like you should die? Say less. And then he dropped her. And then that's when she reached out and grabbed him and she's like, I want to live. Yeah. And then after that, they went on to like a rooftop, and it was such the creator, and that's why I want to do an episode on like mangaka and like just a conversation like how they illustrate. It was so well done. He's like sitting there and he looks so peaceful, and he has his angel wings kind of like in the background, and she's like, aren't you mad at me? Like, aren't you upset about everything that happened? He's like, I'm not mad at you, and it's not a problem. It's okay. And it made him. You could see just a benevolence from him as a character, and that's when things just really shift. Like she realized A, she never understood him, and B, he always saw her for who she truly is. That's why he was like, oh, you really, because he knew that she wanted to live, but he can't convince her of that. She has to realize that on her own. So he let go, making her realize herself, and now she's like, yo, I really want to live. And he's like, and fam, I've known this the whole time. You're the only person that thought you didn't want to live. And then that's when they started flying. They later went flying together, and that's when like it really registered. And then the next day, she was just a lot more lighthearted because she's like, I'm allowed to be happy. The person that I quote unquote needed to forgive me already forgave me way before I even realized.
Okay, now let me just touch on that point. I don't think she was in love back then. I don't think she loved him back then.
Okay, so you're talking about specifically. Okay, now word it like this.
Because remember,
she started to fall for him at that point.
Okay, that makes sense now. Yeah,
because it happens over time throughout the whole series. Because she realizes what type of person he is, and how much he cares for others, and how much he's willing to do for others, and that's what really had an impact on her to really, like, I guess you could say, follow alongside him in terms of his journey. But when she started to fall for him was really at that moment where he did that gangster shit. Was just like, all right, bye, and she reached out.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense now.
Also, like Mirai, like one thing I want to add to is like Mirai never changed who he was from the get-go. Like through everything that he went through, it was like, I'm Mirai, I'm gonna find my happiness, I'm gonna do it my way. And like he grew so much. Like when he was finally like, all right, I'm gonna bring out the white arrow and just like do what I gotta do. Like we've seen his purpose for everything. We've seen his meaning to kill is like, okay, you're not gonna take away happiness from these people. Before it was like, I can't do this because if I do this, I'm unhappy. But it's like he's found like true purpose and meaning. And I feel like Saki seen all of that too over time, and she started to get like more and more guilty. Where it was, oh, this person has resolve. He's truly fighting for everything that he truly believes in. And it was her was doing all this fake stuff. I need atonement, like you were saying.
What do you mean by he didn't change? He didn't really change.
He didn't change. He he developed. So
it evolved. Instead of changing, it evolved to match the circumstances. I was actually going to read like a perfect quote from Mukaido, the dad with cancer, that he says about Mirai, which was, Mirai, your determination to live, no, your determination not to let anyone die hardly makes you unsuited to fight. So in other words, because he's willing to save lives, which is to make sure that to guarantee people's opportunity to find happiness. That's why he's willing to do in a certain way whatever it takes to save as many people as he can.
I think that he changed a lot, to be honest.
Okay, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
I think he changed a lot. So first of all, I think that many of the viewers can agree with me on this.
Oh, okay.
When they say,
this guy's confident. He's like, I'm gonna take the whole audience.
When I say he was unbearable in the beginning. He was truly unbearable.
Super wishy-washy. Super wishy-washy.
He lacked confidence. He wasn't determined. He wasn't decisive. So it was very hard to watch that. And of course, it was hard because if you're going to talk about suicide or depression, it's going to be a heavy topic, right? So that makes sense. But it wasn't until he actually realized his purpose and found meaning in that purpose.
And what would you say his purpose was?
Make Saki happy.
Okay.
It's simple as that.
Okay.
So I think that when he realized that, he started to truly change. But of course, it was like a gradual step towards that.
Okay.
Like he realized the more I surround myself with Saki, the more I want to be a better person, the more I want to do more for other people. Because I guess to him, Saki's happiness just means the whole world. Even if it means 7 billion lives, sure, whatever. But that's the price of Saki's smile for him. Right? So he was willing to sort of like carry that heavy burden, put that on his shoulder and say, you know what? I'm going to change who I am because I want to be with this person right here. So, and I think that men tend to do that a lot, especially if they find that one person. I don't know if you did that for your wife, like if you just became a better person, or if she made you a better person. But it's sort of like a common theme. So I think I think he changed because of that, because of Saki, right? The minute Saki was around him, he started to change, and you can kind of see it. You see it very clearly that he's just changing slowly. So that's pretty. I wouldn't
say change. I would say he grew.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but I use the word evolve or whatever.
Yeah, evolve, grow. Like I would say, because for me, change implies that it could have even been contrary. It could have even been like his perspective could have been contrary to what he was, but it always maintained the concept of happiness, of maintaining the collective happiness. Yes, there was definitely a focus on Saki, especially as the series went on, but he was always like, no, he didn't like he was heartbroken when Hajime, the good-looking ugly guy, died. Yeah. It still affected him. The same way as like, maybe worse for Saki, but it still very much affected him. He very much guilt-tripped himself for Hajime dying from the injection from saving them.
Yeah,
but
that was sick.
Yeah, he was gangster. I love how they always find ways in anime of including katana and swordplay. Like, this show's about like angels. You still got a samurai. It's like, how are you guys always doing this?
You can be in the 21st century and they have a katana still.
Right? Like, and it's more somehow it's always more effective than like machine guns and artillery tanks. Anyways, for me, I always had a direction I was going in. Yeah. But I would say it's tough. I've always had a direction I was going in terms of where I want to go. Like I said, the monuments, it's had an impact on me since 2016. I've had a direction even before them, but monuments really was just like, this is where I want to be. And I would say with her, it's made me, it's tough. I never had to think about that.
You kind of did say it earlier.
I did. I'm trying to figure out how I want to word it.
Okay.
It always minded me where I was doing, but like in terms of what I'm able to do, and what I'm willing to do, she's pushed, and she's not telling me, she's not like, why haven't you become a better social worker? She's not doing that, but she's making me want to do that every day I see her. By just being an amazing woman. That's how I word it. Let's continue. I know, Jordan, you want to say some stuff about Metropoliman.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you mentioned something about taking away someone's happiness. You're not going to let someone take away your happiness.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I look at Metropolitan, he's a very interesting character. So his purpose, his goal, whatever you want to call it, he's essentially taking away people's happiness, right? That's essentially what he's doing.
Selfishly.
He's very selfish. But then there's something very interesting. So it's like, how do you define, like for example, it's like, how do I word this? How do you realize when someone's purpose is taking someone else's happiness, right? Like, for example, I can be an entrepreneur. Within my nature, I need to compete and make profit, right? Even if I have to put someone else out of business. You see what I'm trying to say? It's like,
one could say, if I could jump in on that, one could say it's also on that company for not evolving to the times to be able to compete with you still. One could say that.
Yeah.
That's one layer I would say. Sorry for jumping, but that's one layer I would say. Usually looks like you have something to say too. So you having to smirk. Right? And then the other thing is, I think there's a difference between intentionally taking away someone's happiness versus inconsequentially. I'll give an example on my end. Yeah. So one end that's intentional, which we're going to talk about on another session, which is Shield Hero, and just I'm an Naofumi. I've been falsely accused. So she intentionally, because you know the whole story. He was involved with it, by the way. Like, not like in it, like I was the one who was falsely accused, but he was one of the people, like, you got interviewed for it, right? So what was I going to say? She was caught as saying, I finally got him.
No way.
Yeah. So that was on record. So that's an example where even just like kind of what we want to talk about, which, you know, we're going to talk just a little bit on. Amber Heard, she was happy. She was smiling. There's video footage of her smirking when she was finally able to falsely accuse Johnny Depp of physically and sexually abusing her. That's someone intentionally trying to take away your happiness, your own freedom to be happy, versus inconsequentially, my own inconsequential one was, when I started working at the community center, you remember, I wasn't with the city for that long, but I got promoted quickly. But because I got promoted quickly, it means I took that opportunity from other people who were there longer to be promoted to supervisor. So I'm taking away pay from them. So it means I'm taking away opportunity from them. But I'm not trying to hurt you. But it happens because I'm trying to do more things for myself. That's just the nature, just kind of like we were talking about in terms of competition. Like when you beat someone in Smash.
But what if you do it without realizing?
Yeah, the
that's what I mean by unconsequential.
No. But listen, what if you do it without realizing in a way that's actually hurting the person? Like, for example, you don't realize what you're doing, but it's bad. Like, for example, what you said, right? I mean, that's just it happens, right? It's not necessarily bad. It's not necessarily bad because, I mean, you got offered that, right? And you just decided to.
I went out for it. I wasn't necessarily offered. I went to go and take it. I found it. I found out by myself. I didn't tell anybody else because I want it for me, and I took it for myself.
Okay, but let's take Metropolitan situation now. So he basically
Metropoliman.
Metropoliman. I thought it was Metropolitan. Like, okay,
I know because you do too much poli-sci.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take his case for example. So he's out here, right? Basically with his ideology, essentially wanting to kill people for his purpose. Whether we can argue on this, whether he thinks this is wrong or right. In his mind, he thinks that's the right thing to do, right? Subconsciously. And actually, you can also argue consciously, right? Because he's saying it. He's saying it. He said, "This is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it." Right. So, how do you define that? Like, exactly where do you put that in your definition of what you just described? Like,
intentionally. Because he's also knowing that he's killing. He also is aware that he's killing people. He's also aware that. Usually, I know you want to say something. Now, so I'll just let you go.
So there's also I agree like what he's saying. I know what you're trying to mean too. When it comes to Metropoliman, I'm just getting mixed up because you're like Metropolitan. I'm like,
so the way I do it is like I just take Metro and police.
I was just gonna say that.
So Metropoliman. I feel like there was a huge sense of some crazy pride in there. His true meaning to everything was like really warped because he wanted to eliminate all like the quote unquote scums of the world, the bottom tier people, because he was like
bottom tier.
he was like, these people are the same one that corrupted my sweet little sister, because it was like his sister, he had a crush on some random high school or something like that, and he was just like, oh, now my sister has become tainted because he's talking to some random people out there. now she's gonna become one of the cockroaches too. And then as he was explaining all this, he kind of, I would probably say it's like pride, a bit
Definitely
of like
pride.
envy and all these things, because now you're taking away my sister. I feel like the sins really come into play with this, where it's like he let like certain things like take over, and it was like,
He let his sister fall. Pride.
Mm-hmm. And he literally let his, what's the saying? Pride before the
Pride is the first one to. Damn, I forgot the quote. Pride is the first one to go.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, when things are getting bad, the first thing that's gonna go. Pride is the first to fall, or something. I'll search it up just now.
There's that.
But yeah, something like
pride
that.
Before the growth. There's a lot of things, I don't even know, but it just came to mind anyways. He allowed these things to warp everything in his mind. So,
There we go.
I accidentally.
Pride goeth before destruction. Pride comes before the fall.
Mm-hmm. So like
pride will be the first thing that'll cause you to fall.
You see, I have my answer for my own question, but I just want to hear you guys' take on this.
Yeah.
So, when is it for a purpose to be justified while it's taking someone else's happiness?
Well, one could really look at the show in terms of Mirai, and he said, what was it? I forgot the quote, but basically he's just saying, oh, there it is. Someone like Metropoliman who threatens the happiness of others isn't fit to become God. So if you're going to threaten the safety and happiness of others, then you have to be stopped. Mm-hmm. Now, how you decide to be stopped, that depends on who you are as your person, your disposition, your temperament. Mukaido was just like, this man needs to go. I'm about to fill this guy up with lead. Mirai wanted to bring this guy to jail. But they both wanted the same outcome, which is for him to stop.
Yeah. And I'll just add to it where like he was led with like wrong intentions. I brought the pride, the envy, and there was like heavy wrath in there too. Yeah. So, like if you lead your actions with wrath, you won't really think clearly about anything,
all you see is
or
red.
you will rationalize certain things to however you want to rationalize it. Because I'm angry, you cockroaches took my sister. This is all your fault. That's literally what he was saying. It's like all of your guys' fault. You cockroaches, this, that, and he acted on it. Like his purpose, his meaning, and everything all came from like a very bad source. And I feel like that's what really kind of like defines like villains in a sense, because it's normally villains where we'll be like, okay, he's following your ambitions, but this kind of has to stop. Like what he's doing now is affecting everyone. Same thing applies to Orochimaru. Just to throw him in here, it was like he was kind of led from a very, very dark place. He had his own ideology and everything, but it really came from, he was angry because his life was different or whatever. I don't want to touch on Orochimaru because it's off topic, but at the same time too, he was trying to like prove a point. Like he was really prideful at this point. Like the pride mixed with the wrath. It was, I'm going to do all this. I'm going to make a point, and that point's going to take away everything from you guys, and you guys are going to understand this all pointless, and the true meaning is immortality. This is a whole mess of everything. And it took him a very long time to grow. But like, you know, like certain villains kind of have warped kind of ideology or anything, and it really comes from like the sins and everything. Like I'm pretty sure everyone has come in a situation where it's, okay, I'm being tempted from this nature in me, whether it's something where it's greed. We all love money, first of all. Greed, lust, we're all guys, first of all, you know what I mean? Wrath, we've all been angry before, I'm pretty sure. And like sometimes like we act on these things without even thinking. Sometimes we rationalize things even when it shouldn't be rationalized, you know? So like when these things start to crystallize and solidify in like your mind, where it happened in Metropoliman, it was like, you know what? I'm really going to blame everyone but myself for the passing of my sister. And I'm going to be even angrier. Though he was already kind of like a weird, messed up person in a way.
Oh, this guy's a weirdo. This guy's working out naked and looking himself in the mirror.
Yeah,
like, are you weird,
that pride, he even showed the pride. Just even saying that, like, that pride is just like
weird.
So
like,
weird.
You're that vain? You need to look at yourself naked while you work out? Are you weird, bro? Holy.
So, yeah, it's just crazy. I really think that the sins are a really big thing. Cause
but thingy, you said something very, very interesting, Eb. So one of the things that what Eb said. Eb said something very interesting, and I think the writers are also well versed in the sense that like they've done their homework when it comes to psychology. And I'm gonna get to my point. I think that you said, I'm gonna stop you because you've become a threat, right? I always like to relate things back to theories and psychology or politics even, because that's the way I understand the world. So I remember, I think I was reading this one book. I think it was called it's called Liberty. Yeah, so it's called Liberty. I think did you guys hear about one philosopher? His name is John Stuart Mill.
I know the name.
Yeah, you've heard of it, right? So in his book, he says, I think there's this one principle. It's called the harm principle. He's like, we can do whatever we want to do in life, right? Unless it doesn't hurt somebody else. And then, of course, the 21st... in theory. So, and then, of course, the 21st century variation is probably like, we can do whatever we want to do unless it doesn't hurt anyone else and ourselves, right? Because what happens is, once you put other people's life in jeopardy, or if you become a threat, then the state has every right to stop you, and even people, right? And I remember there's this one application, it's called Good to Talk. And one of the things they always said, this is every single psychologist, right? They always said, if you're ever contemplating suicide, what we have to do, we have to notify the police, the state, right? So it's sort of like interesting how the writer of this show, and I guess you can say it's basic, right? But the writer of the show, like, they use all these principles to tell a bigger picture here. So I think that's very interesting. So for me, to answer my own question, I would say that, if you truly have to stop a person's purpose, again, what you said, is if it's threatening other people, literally threatening other people. And that's what I think it is too, yeah. So I agree with you.
Yeah. And then on the other spectrum, and I could see, as I'm saying this out loud, I could see why they ended the first half of the show with Mukaido and Metropoliman dying, in a sense of Mukaido, his thing, which I can very much relate to because I'm in the process of creating my own biological family, is he wanted to protect his family no matter what, and made it so that everything he did was to secure their safety, and by so being, as cliche and as tongue-in-cheek as it is, secure their happiness. So that's the reason why no matter what he wanted to kill Metropoliman, because he was in direct opposition of him. Because if Metropoliman succeeded, that's the end of his family. And if Mukaido wants to protect his family, this is the father with cancer, he has to stop Metropoliman. He's the single greatest threat to his family's safety and happiness. Which is why it brought him happiness.
I've always realized, why is it this is probably a stupid question, but I've always realized this, is that it's like, depending on the situation, like, for example, what makes it right for a soldier to just kill randomly?
I think Joker spoke on that in the sense of, like, war is the only time where, like, you're celebrated for killing people. So one time you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, so it's...
And that's because we're a government, a bunch of people who we don't even really see except on electronic screens are telling us, yeah, those people over there need to die.
Yeah, they give us all purpose because we are all kind of, we have that kind of hive mentality. we're social beings. And it's like, if you're feeding us certain kind of information, this propaganda will kind of, it'll solidify in our heads. We're killing the villains, we're killing the devil, we're killing these people,
And I find it interesting just how, depending on the situation, just how things can just be so messed up. Like, when you really realize it. Like, for example, well, you know what? You can't just walk down the street. Even if you were to see someone, like in Canada, I'm speaking in Canada, you can't, if you see someone probably like stabbing somebody else, you can't, and let's say you have a knife yourself, you can't just go up to that person and stab them, even though you're doing it for the sake of protecting somebody else. You can't do that. It's against the law, right? But now let's switch the setting, right? Now you're on a battlefield. Well, I could just kill 100 people and I'm celebrated. So it's like, it's so interesting. You just switch the setting.
Because if you kill civilians, you might get a dishonorable discharge.
Or you kill a criminal to be.
Yeah.
No. So I'm just giving an example. Like, you can kill, you can stab and shoot in the battlefield, but if you stab and shoot civilians, you're once again, you could be given a dishonorable discharge.
Yeah. There's what's it called? There's a name for it. There's war crimes. Like,
war crimes. Yeah.
If you do like certain things
you'd be surprised how many of them get away with it. To be
I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm just saying there's rules and regulations behind that could get you In trouble for that.
Remember we always hear stories where it's like the soldiers sometimes even rape the civilians and stuff like that. A lot of these people, they go into these things
The
and
Geneva
they're just
Conventions.
like,
There we go.
their mindsets are different. Like everyone's going to the war. There's so much different people. We're all going with different mindsets and everything. People are just gonna do whatever. Some people will just listen, be like, all right, kill everyone. All right, bet, kill everyone. Then there'll be some people with conscience, whatever. Some people will like kill them, rape them, whatever. But at the end of the day, as we're following these orders, we're still gonna act on what that person wants to do. And I just want to touch back on what I was saying, where when it comes to like the sins and everything, it's like these things are a part of us. And I also too believe that there's another side of the sins. You know, like even though there is wrath, there's a, kind of like a good kind of wrath or controlled wrath. Yeah. Even though there is greed,
controlling your anger,
the yin and the yang.
Exactly. Even though there is greed, at the end of the day, there's a good sense of greed where it's like, you know, you want to provide, you want to continue gathering resources.
Literally greed and FMA.
Mm-hmm. Literally
greed and FMA. Once you rewatch the show again, literally greed and FMA.
Literally.
Yeah, I was having a discussion with my friend. I said, there's good and bad jealousy, but then he never really understood what I meant by that. I'm like, you can be...
So I have interest. Sorry, I just want to jump in. That's a really good, cool thing that you said, because during the Amber Heard trial, one of the head members of the APA, so I actually saw those evil people who are in charge of the American Psychology Association, you know, when you have to do citation notes. I know you know those ones. So I finally saw one of them. I was like, yo, I don't like these people. But I really don't. Right? APA style, you never have to deal with it because you're in the art world, but like we had to write papers, so there's different citation notes. Otherwise, you can get like plagiarized and then kicked out of school.
Imagine writing a long essay and then you forgot to properly cite it with
the whole thing. You're in trouble. You're flagged.
You lose a lot of
no, for real. Not just flagged. You can get kicked out of school.
Because you're plagiarizing basically.
It's hectic.
But yeah, so the head of one of the head members of the APA, when he was talking about Amber Heard, he had a really good thing, but he never got to expand on it. Mm-hmm. He was saying how he sees that there's a fundamental difference between envy and jealousy, but he never got to expand on it because someone said objection, hearsay. But like I was like, oh, you'd say there's a difference between jealousy and envy. So I really thought that was interesting.
I agree, absolutely. I agree. I think that there's a huge difference between jealousy and envy. But I think the difference really relies on, it really falls into just the connotation part. So for example, I think that if you hear the word envy as a much more, even worse connotation than jealousy, for example.
I would say the opposite, but go on.
Okay, no worries. So like for example, I would be no, I think you're right. No, I think you may be right. Yeah, no, I flipped it around. Yeah, so I think jealousy is much more worse than envy. Yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, because I can't think of a time where someone says I'm jealous of you, and I'm like, oh, that's okay. Like usually if someone says like I'm envious, I'm like, oh yeah, like you'll get your time, bro, or sis, whatever. But like, if I hear it's like, yeah, I'm jealous of this guy, I'm like, oh, I'm not trying to have you in my circle, fam. Like, you're dangerous.
Facts.
But yeah, everything is. But what you're going back on your point, everything is really contextual because. So like I'll just touch on this a little bit, but I was just like I was just watching the second Doctor Strange movie, and like Wanda Scarlet Witch, she's trying to get her family back, and the lengths to which she's going. So I'm not going to spoil the movie for you, but the lengths she's willing to go to get her children. I'm like, did your children want you to kill people for them?
This reminds me of the argument we had for Lelouch and Nonely.
Yes, a little bit. Like, did that person ask for you to do that? Like, is this something that they want to have on their conscience that you killed people for me? You're not. To be honest, you're okay. Your mom level's mid. Yeah, like, what's wrong with you, right? So that goes into that because at the same time, like maybe Mukaido's daughter wouldn't be accepting of what he did. But he still did it nonetheless to protect her, which like he really was going to like send the world into chaos. Metropoliman. And so that's why even it was just like I never thought that killing someone would bring me happiness.
Yeah, I liked his resolve. Like Mukaido was that guy where it was, your reasoning for this is really badass. And even though like it sounds like somehow wrong, at the end of the day you're doing something that's really good, but for a selfish cause.
Yeah, which is what he even like. Yeah, he's like witness of proof that I was alive. This is my justice. As he's shooting into Metropoliman, and he's like, I'm half driven by selfishness.
That self-awareness, though.
Yeah, a lot of self-awareness. I feel like
when do you ever hear someone saying that?
There you go.
Like the viewers have to realize that
exactly
from the character, not the character themselves. So that's crazy. That's interesting.
And then the last person I just want to kind of touch on a little bit as we wrap this up is Hajime, the ugly pretty guy, in the sense of he hated the world because he never felt like he belonged, but he always worked towards that. That was his purpose. That was his reasoning, to find ways in which he belonged. He could have easily just shot people with red arrows and made them love it, but he was like, that's not good enough for me. I want to feel like I belong. And he constantly worked himself towards that. It kind of got, anime convoluted towards the end for his life, but he didn't just shoot red arrows. He actually got plastic surgery. Even when he was waiting for his face to heal, he was working out like every day. Like you and I were talking about that. He dyed his hair. He started washing his hair, started bathing. And then when he realized that like he had another challenge, which is just learning to talk to women, he was like, I need to learn from Metropoliman. He was constantly building himself up to the point where he got shot, obviously, with like a Cuban arrow from Saki, and he fell in love with her, and then that's when he realized he wanted to be in the world. Prior to that, he just wanted the world to end because he never felt like, no one ever made him feel like he belonged. But once he had a reason to love someone, that's really what gave him reason to live, which obviously his reason to live is also the reason he died. Because he sacrificed himself to save her. And from that, even when he was melting and became ugly again, he saw someone crying for him. And that's really what made him feel belong. Because he had something that he was constantly working toward, which is like, he's basically just trying to be a better person. And that could be the main thing you're focused on. Maybe every day you're constantly trying to build yourself up. It doesn't just have to be, I need to be a doctor, I need to be a lawyer, I need to have a 6-figure business, I need to have 10 bitches on rotation. Like, it doesn't have to be those external things. And oftentimes those things are what other people tell you to do. I can tell you personally from someone who's had like a variety of women. Hopefully my wife's not listening to this episode as I said that just now. She'll be like, what do you mean a variety of women? Is that
you're getting yourself old right now.
Crazy. I'm about to be in the doghouse in the next couple weeks. People will think, why is this guy not posting anymore? It's like, hey.
I'll be honest with you. The minute someone's shot with an arrow, and then I don't really take them seriously anymore, especially if it's especially as the person that shot them with the arrow. So for example, the Hajime case, I'll be completely honest with you. When he saw that person crying, yeah, sure, subconsciously he probably felt something.
When he saw that person, what?
No, when he saw someone else crying for him.
Right.
Yeah, so he probably, subconsciously he probably did feel something, but because he was shot by an arrow, I don't really take it serious.
So I think what you could not take seriously, and I respect your decision, would be him sacrificing himself. Okay, maybe he might not have done that if he wasn't in love. Yeah. But she cried for him.
Yeah,
she wasn't shot with an arrow. Yeah. She genuinely cried over him dying, while he was melting and looking ugly again. Also, and he didn't say I was in love when he died. He said I'm finally happy.
Is it?
And to further hammer in my point is that even if it wasn't her, even if he wasn't shot with the red arrow, it's the pure aspect of like if we just like cut out all the super fast stuff around it, all the anime stuff, he was happy because he was loved. Because someone cried for him in terms of him doing something.
Now, was it really because she cried? Did she really cry for him, or because she cried, she was reminded of how death looks like? Because that's the thing, what she was guilty all along.
Go on.
Okay, so the fact that Sati, of course, what's her name? Saki wanted to, of course, die because of the whole Mirai situation. So she always told herself, you know what, like, I'm going to kill myself because of that situation. Right. So now, because she saw that at face value, do you think she was subconsciously just reminded, wow, so this is how death must look like? Because at the end of the day, or did she really cry just because she's just an empathetic person? You see what I'm saying?
I would say she cried a lot for a lot of different characters. She was even crying for the little girl. Remember when she got shot with when Metropoliman killed her?
Is she crying because she's reminded of how death looks like?
She really just didn't want the girl. She was crying before the girl even died. She was crying in the stadium. She was crying for someone to save her. She doesn't want people to die.
Because she was about to die. She didn't die, but we all know she was about to die. Because remember, she can see what's happening, not everyone else.
Huh?
Because remember at the stadium, we can see what was going to happen. Like, they can see the angel, but, and like what was going to take place, like they can see exactly what was going to happen.
Okay, I see what you're saying. But no, when she was watching the situation, she didn't want someone to die. And even before then, she was always like, which is what pushed Mirai to like save people in certain circumstances, because she didn't want other people, because she just cares about other people. I wouldn't say it's necessary because it reminds her of death. And also I would say it's a bit of a stretch because like the man Hajime melted. That's not normal death.
And she did feel guilt like on several occasions when she wasn't able to do anything.
Guilt,
yeah, whenever like she wasn't able to like help or anything like that, she like felt a lot of guilt. And that's what really led into like
useless,
that's what really led into like her getting the wings for the angel dude, because like since they were kind of like bonding that much, they were kind of sharing this feelings of like, frig, bro, like we're useless. We're all like, people are dying around us and we're literally useless. And she reflected on all the situations where it was like, she was useless. Yeah, she was useless. Yeah. And it was Mirai who had to like act on everything every single time. Even the stadium, it was Mirai who had to act. It was never her. And she was just getting all that built up guilt. So I could like back what you're saying up, where I was like, I feel like she actually genuinely also cared. Also too, I wanted to touch on something else where I was like, for pink haired dude, samurai, what's his name? Do you know him? Hajime. Like with him, I feel like when it came to like the whole love thing, like him just being like, oh yeah, even though I'm shot the red arrow, she truly cared for me, blah blah blah. I feel like it's really impactful that moment, because throughout his whole life, he never really had this purpose thing. Like, his first purpose was literally Metropoliman, where it was like, okay, this guy is, like, cool as hell. I want to, like, be like this person. He gets all the girls and everything. He wants to be his homeboy. He's like, yo, I could, like, learn from you and take on this coolness, too. And, like, as he was with that person, that was, like, his only, like, purpose. That was his only friend, his only everything.
His only reason.
Yeah, his only reason to live, pretty much. And that was kind of, like, a corrupt kind of like reason to live, because he was Metropoliman was kind of like all in his own like head with everything what we were talking about earlier. So it's like he was following these meanings, these ideologies. And I like to just relate Naruto in it, because Naruto is huge on like the generation raising the next generation, where it's like people probably turn bad because they're taught to be bad. He was literally grown to be bad, but then like when he finally met like Saki and Mirai, it was okay, like these guys are good, they actually like care and stuff. Like when Metropoliman when he was with whatever his name is, samurai dude, it was like oh, you're just like a sacrificial pawn, you will never see me. But like he actually met like real genuine people. I feel like the transition from like, oh, I'm with this real like shitbag, oh, I'm with people who like actually care, I feel like he really got touched from that when someone actually cried for him. Because Metropoliman would not have cried. He already said it to the beginning, like, oh, you're trash. You should have just died. Why are you even helping me? You haven't watched them in this little playhouse,
He didn't even cry when he died.
Yeah. So like, it's huge still, that whole like purpose thing. So it's a huge thing in this show, like that purpose. Who gives you purpose?
And it's interesting because you would think that.
No, go on. I'll say my point after.
And this is why I say that superficial things cannot really like be your purpose. So for example, you can't say money's my purpose. Like, trust me.
Money comes, money goes.
It's not. So for example, it's like have you realized that ever since like they acquired the white and red arrow, they didn't necessarily get happy. Like they weren't even though like they could get all the money in the world, they could kill who they want, they can make anyone fall in love with, they still were not happy. And it wasn't until they found their purpose that they actually became happy. So, yeah.
No, go on. I'm gonna say my point after.
Yeah. So with Mirai, for example, Mirai was still sad, even though he had the power of the gods. He was still sad, but it wasn't until he realized that I'm doing this for Saki that he became truly happy in himself again. Metropolitan, now he's kind of Metropoliman. So Metropoliman, like. Yeah, sure. He was happy in the sense that, like, okay, you know what? Now I can go and realize my goal for
reviving my sister.
Exactly, for reviving my sister. It wasn't necessarily the red arrow that was making him happy. It was the means in which he can use the red arrow to revive his sister that actually made him happy. Hajime, he just wasn't happy until the very end, right? Until he actually saw that someone actually cared for him, truly cared for him. Mm-hmm. And I think that was his purpose. It was sort of like kind of selfless, but I mean, yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to say in the sense of, so there's two really good points that you said. So one of those things, and we're going to just start wrapping it up now in a sense, but I wanted to say that happiness is fleeting. Once again, I really want to reiterate that, you know, as Jordan just said before, like, material things are not going to bring you happiness. Even when the guy was like, Rodriguez was, you know, getting mad bitches and women to make himself feel important, or Metropoliman was building his army to become God, or Hajime was getting plastic surgery to make he was in a better place. But it didn't. None of these things necessarily made these characters happy. It's the actions that they took, it's the actions they decided to take for themselves that brought them closer to happiness. In other words, happiness is a byproduct of the actions you take for yourself every day, every single day, all the time, even when no one's watching. Like, I enjoy this podcast stuff, and I'm not doing it because someone told me to. I'm not doing it because, like, Deb asked me to. It's because I want to, and I want to build off of it. And that's what brings me, like, these conversations, I get a lot of joy out of it, and I learn from it, right? The other point being is that, like, the really interesting thing in terms of all the characters committing suicide is when they hit, and this is coming from someone who's had, so another thing about me that I'm gonna talk about now is I've dealt with depression and suicide at one point in my life when my dad was going in and out of the hospital. And I would say, from my own personal experience, I don't know what our audience would feel about this, but I feel that depression and suicide comes from a space of powerlessness. Because for me, it was when I felt like I couldn't do anything about my dad's health, that's when I gave up on life. I would say that's always, and that's what, like, with Mirai, going back on Mirai in the show, he really gave up on life once, like, he realized that there's nothing he can do about his family abusing him. I might as well just end myself. Right? Saki's like, I could never go back to apologize to Bia because he seemingly already killed himself. I might as well just end my life. Hajime, I'm a hideous, ugly monster. No one's ever gonna love me. There's nothing I can do. I might as well end my life. Metropoliman, Uryu, his real name, Kanade. My sister's gone. There's nothing I can do to bring her back. I might as well end my life. Right? There's always a sense of powerlessness that you experience from not being able to change your life circumstances. But it's a process, and as you work on the things that are within your control, you can build towards what by working on yourself every day. It allows you to slowly build towards an aspect of what we call happiness. It happens with time, over time, every day, what you decide to do for yourself. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys have any things that you want to say to that, but I wanted to kind of...
I definitely agree with that. I did say, like, happiness was a choice. You said, like, there's perspectives to it, and we all combine, like, all of these perspectives together to meet, like, one grand perspective, which I find, like, to be really cool. I definitely agree with what you're saying to an extent where, like, happiness is a fleeting thing. Things can make us happy. They could kind of just go and then you're, like, unhappy. Is happiness real? Is happiness a choice? Like, what really is happiness? I could definitely agree where it's like, I feel like in life, like, we'll always face things we'll always see the bad and the good. So it's all about perspective. We've all, like, at least all three of us, like, we've made it to where we are now. We've lived at least a fruitful life to our perspective. Like, we've all done, like, what we can. We've all lived, and we protect. All good people in a sense. Realistically, there's no reason to be unhappy. But at the same time, too, we always face adversity. There's always going to be problems and all of those things. These things are the things that could really change someone's mindset to be like, I'm just going to sink into depression for 20 years because all this shit just happened. But at the same time, we also grow from these things, too. Kind of how we are as humans. We're in this game, playing this game in a sense. I call it a game because we're always, like, growing. We're always learning and everything. We have a community. We grow with the community. Go through all these things. At the end of the day, how we choose to, like, grow, how you choose all the things in our life to create one, like what you were saying, things that we do to lead to that happiness, basically what you're saying.
Yeah, working on things that matter to us, that lead us, that bring us happiness as a byproduct, as opposed to being the main thing you need to seek out.
Yeah, legit. Like it's a real thing. You know, you always have to kind of just always grow, and really be a good person. That's really what it really comes down to. You have to grow and be a good person, because at the end of the day, we're always going to face like certain things. Not everything's always going to go our way at the end of the day, but there are always things that's going to remain familiar. There's always going to be things that are going to be there. Myself growing up, I had to learn that there'll always, because there was a point in my life where like I went to like my own dark space just to like add, and I was like, you know what, I'm dolo, I'm making my own bread, you know what, I'm off the face of the earth, I'm going to focus on myself. It was just like straight money. The only people who were around me was like the money talks. That was it. I abolished that meaning of, you know, that happiness, if that makes sense. Like I literally abolished it for a huge period of time, yo. And when I got rid of all those things, was I like happy? Like, was I whatever? Like, you know, like what was my mindset? It was, I'm thriving to go through all this. Even though a lot of things kind of took away my happiness to put me in this mindset, I was able to grow. But then I realized at the same time, this money thing, chasing it, is not really going to bring me happiness, you know? It was really like, I realized that there was people around me who will like always just kind of stick. It's weird how that transition happened, where people are really cool. Even though I was going to go off the face of the earth and just like focus on myself.
The 7K thing, right?
No, this was before that. This was before that. That 7K thing was something like, bro, I went through so much crazy stuff, bro. I had to really grow, man. I've literally stared death in his face before. I could have died, bro. I've been snaked in so many different ways and all of those stuff.
He has stories.
I have stories on stories, bro. So after going through all of these things, I went in a space where I was like, I just need to prioritize myself to the maximum. Ultra selfish mode. That didn't make me happy, and I was kind of confused with the whole meaning of happiness. The only thing that brought me happiness was really like my main purpose. That was to create art, get money, and just win at certain things that I want to do. But realistically, these things brought me happiness, yeah, but at the same time too, like I needed like more meaning and purpose and like fulfillment, and I got that from, if that makes sense, like
to enjoy life rather than taking it so seriously.
And I really got it just from experience, like love, if that makes sense, like the love of your family, you know, like they really propel you. Even when it comes to like relationships, friendships, and all of these things give us sort of fulfillment. But at the same time too, we always have to focus on ourselves. At the end of the day, we have to chase our happiness, chase our beliefs, face adversity, stare in the face, go through everything, and just really grow from it, so you become like a real whole. Because the world will change us, bro. Like straight up, the world, like all these things, happiness is a fleeting thing. Anything could be taken away. You could be winning, and then you could just lose. You can't just put all of that into that one thing. Like I said, you can't stay depressed for 20 years. You can't be like, I'm going to be depressed for a year or 2 years or whatever, because at the end of the day, we still have people that look up to us. Like you were mentioning with like the youth and stuff like that. Sometimes I forget that people look up to me completely, and I'll just be in my own world, not focus on anything, and it's, I have to remember that I'm still looking out for people at the end of the day. And it gets really in depth still. You just really protect, and really have resolve. Things will leave, but don't leave your resolve. Anything could happen. Shit could go to the fan, but at the end of the day, the things, whatever goes to the fan, I had my purpose with all these things. If it leaves, it leaves. But at the end of the day, I still remain me and intact. Like, things come and go, but at the same time too, you could make it stay a part of you. Things could go, but it could still be a part of you. If that makes sense. Because it's about how we grow.
I'm gonna say the reason it's a fleeting thing, because at the end of the day, it's an emotion. The same way anger, greed, joy, sadness, they come and go, right?
Emotions.
So because happiness is also, you know, a state of emotion, I think that's the reason, personally for me, why it's a fleeting thing. But just to add on what you said something about like depression is heavily tied to being powerlessness. So I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I'm going to also add not being hopeful. I think first it starts with you realizing that you can't do anything, and then you not being hopeful anymore, and then it leads to severe depression.
That hope is
You're just making it open up. You're making it open up more.
Because this is very important because.
No, I agree with you. I'm just gonna end up talking about more of my own thought process, but go on.
Okay, so instead of just talking about worldly examples, I'm just going to talk about myself. So I remember at a point in time where I realized that I was lost. I didn't want to do basketball anymore. I just wanted to be in my room. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I've been told by society so many times, whether it's ads, whether it's close friends. Even one of my close friends at the time told me, you're not going to be shit or whatever.
Crazy.
So, yeah, so it was crazy. So when he was telling me that, to me, I took it as, first of all, I'm powerlessness, right? Like I don't have any power. Like I can't do anything, because what if what these people are saying is right? Like what if what they're saying is right? Because I'm being told by literally everyone, whether it's teachers, whether it's my close friends, whether it's ads or society or whatever the case may be. I'm being told by everyone that you're not going to do anything in life. So in my mind, I felt like I didn't have any power, because I'm being told by the same very people, one who's an educator, who's teaching everyone, who knows a lot, that you're not going to do anything. So that sort of did something to me. So, but I didn't stop though. I was sort of sad and had anxiety. You could kind of say it was like dormant depression.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that really made me depressed is when I lost hope. Hope in a sense where I just told myself and I convinced myself that tomorrow is not going to be a better day. And I think the reason why we as humans, we advance in society so far and we have all these scientific discovery is because we're hopeful at the end of the day. So like we can have like days where we don't even know what the hell we're going to do. We don't have the power to change anything. That little kid right there who wants to be a politician and change the world, he knows he doesn't have the power, right? But at the end of the day, as long as he's hopeful and he continues to strive, he can really do something with his life, right? Because imagine if we didn't have hope, and now you don't have power, and you don't have hope. Like you're gonna be in a depressive state for God how long, right? So I think that if you just add hope, being hopeful to that, yeah, it's a game changer, man. It's a game changer. If you're not hopeful and you don't have power, I feel bad for the person.
Yeah, I feel like
I was able to persevere because of the fact that I remained hopeful, to be honest.
Bro, same with me, man.
Like I know, like, yeah. and I think we're all of us here are pretty self-aware. So we knew at the time of our lowest self, like we didn't have power. Like we're well aware of that, but we still continued on because we were hopeful.
Yeah,
right?
And so we'll end it here in the sense of so that's what I meant by you like making me open up more, because I don't really just disclose everything about me. But that's the reason why I connect with Kai Kisuke in Guilty Gear, and also Superman. I have a very strong theme in Dogma. I don't know if you guys, as I bring this attention, now you guys will know this is about me. But whenever I've texted you guys, I capitalize the H in hope.
Don't remember. I'm not gonna lie.
Have you noticed that?
You capitalize the H?
In hope. Every time I write it.
Well, like, yeah, but like, I wouldn't think that's a thing.
Huh?
I wouldn't think that's a thing.
There's a reason.
Like you
There's a reason
said
to it. I know. I'm not gonna tell you. Oh, by the way, I'm saying hope because like I'm not gonna do that.
I think it probably just flew me by, to be honest.
Exactly, because like I'm not gonna tell people, but like it's like, even when I write emails, I capitalize the letter H in hope, because hope is a very serious word for me, because it goes back into like what you're saying. Yes, despair and not having hope. So Kai.
Hope was so strong.
Exactly. So Kai in Guilty Gear, he has like a belt buckle and it has the word hope. Yeah. And what's also written on him is a quote from Helen Keller, which is, "Nothing can be done without hope."
Yep. Another
quote that makes me, it's the reason why I love Superman. So fun fact, the S doesn't stand for super. For his people, the S is a symbol, and the symbol is hope. So Superman, the symbol on his chest is hope. And in the movie Master, so I'll just read this and then we'll end it here. The symbol, so there's Superman's, Superman's like from another planet, so he has like alien mom and alien dad. Yeah. So they have, Jor-El has a quote in the movie Man of Steel back in 2013. By the way, fun fact, like Superman has a lot of Jesus and Christ references. Fun fact, like just to hit you with a little bit of something. Yeah. He's from a dying place, and he was sent by his father to another place on a cradle to grow up somewhere else and come back and save his people.
Okay.
Moses.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to point that out to you.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so Jaral says the people of hope are different from us, and the people of hope are different from us. It's true, but ultimately, I believe that is a good thing. They won't necessarily make the same mistakes we did, but if you guide them, Cal being Superman, if you guide them, Cal, if you give them hope, that's what this symbol stands for. The symbol of the House of El means hope. Embodied within that hope is the fundamental belief, the potential of every person to be a force for good. Mm-hmm. That is what you can bring them.
You know what I also believe, if you had to pick between one of the two, I think that depression, when you really look at it, hope has a much more like harder consequence than being powerless. In a sense that let me just touch on this point before we go. Whenever you hear someone who's depressed, like oftentimes, I'm going to speak about myself. I don't really want to speak about somebody else here, but they'll be like, I don't even know what the hell I should do. I don't know what I should do next. Like I'm confused. So it's not really a case of me being powerless. It's just, first of all, they're losing hope. Mm-hmm. That's what it is actually. So I think that it's a much more powerful feeling than it is to just simply be powerless. Because with powerless, is like once you realize...
Powerless means powerless in the sense of like you feel like you cannot take control of your life. Everything is out of your control, and therefore I'm in despair. Like there's nothing I can do. I've given up. I've given up the ability to do anything because I can't do anything.
I would call that control then. I would just call that
control is a different thing. You can control yourself, but once you realize you can control yourself, that gives you hope. You're like, if I can't control this, but I can control how I can react. And if I control how I can react and how I decide to handle the situation, then I can possibly change my outcome. Hope. The possibility.
Yo, I love that. Sorry, I was saying something before. I wasn't even trying to say something, but like...
this guy was talking to himself the whole time. This guy was talking to himself the whole time.
I want to touch on that point you just said. It's really interesting. I like it.
But yeah, it's just like that. The whole concept of hope, just like the having power and empowering yourself with hope, it's like a huge thing. As like a competitor, like a lot of the times, a lot of people will go into the game with the mindset of, I'm just going to lose, or I'm fighting the best person in the world, I'm just going to lose, or something like that. That literal mindset will affect your mentality because you will stop thinking of the possibilities of like why you can win or like why this, why that. It's a real mental thing. When it comes to me, at least, remember how I was saying to kind of like lead by example? I don't like to waver. Like when I start wavering, I start doubting myself. When I'm wavering and I'm second guessing myself, I'm like, bro, why am I second guessing? Mm-hmm. And every time I've lost, I swear it's because I wavered. I like going forward and having that hope and that drive. Looking at the outcome, that hopeful outcome. Mm-hmm. I always look towards the hopeful outcome. I base it off of percentages. Even if it's a 1% chance, sometimes I'll be like, yo, that 1% chance could be the chance I need. I just got to play certain things out so that 1% chance could keep on increasing. But like, I always try to like keep that hope. That's why I was saying earlier, I'm kind of like perfectionist, where it's like, if my art's a certain level or something like that, I'll start to like lose hope. But because of that, I practiced rigorously. Like I kept on practicing until I got to a certain level. And even when I was young, just getting beat up in every single game, everything I played and everything, I was hopeful that when I get taller and stronger, I'll be able to do this. Because I was always beaten on the ground. Now I'm going to get back up and be hopeful, because sometimes I see my brother do these things. They kept on growing and they're hopeful. So it's like seeing him do this gave me hope. We gained strength off of each other. Yeah, that's really what I was thinking about, to be completely honest.
Just to touch on your point really quick. So a lot of people don't know this about me, but sometimes I have like OCD with certain behaviors that I do. Like for example, with my breathing, especially at nighttime, is that I consciously think about my breathing. I don't know why, like it just happens, and I just know I don't have power over that, because that's what OCD is, right? Like you don't have power over certain things, but it's like because I don't have power over that, it's like one of those things where I accept it, but it's not even something that you also have to accept. It's just something that it just is, and I guess you just live with it. But for me, it's just the fact that like I get to see another day. just that hope factor right there. I get to see another day. I get to communicate with you guys and just argue with you guys. I get to see my family, and I get to build on my businesses. I'll be honest with you, that's what keeps me alive. Like I get the point of, you know, powerless in the sense that, you know, I can't even control that. You know, I can't even control exactly my action in that sense. In turn, it's making me depressed. But I feel like what's truly is like one of those killer factor is losing hope. Because after that, it's like, once you lose that, it's like, why are you even living now? Because you're definitely going to convince yourself, why should I even see tomorrow when I could just end it today?
Bingo.
You see, so it's pretty confusing. Also, there's a lot of people out there who know their power. They don't have any power, and they know, like, with certain emotions, they can't control it. It may be frustrating, but they still continue living on because of that factor. And I feel like the reason why they fall into depression, now this is no stats, this is just my own opinion. I feel like the reason why they fall into depression is because exactly what you said, it starts in the mind. They start to lose hope in themselves and their ability and everything, which is why I think that hope is such a strong indicator to depressive moods.
Yeah. Everything that's given me a hard time is because I give up hope. And so my main thing in life with everything I do, along with, you know, the monuments thing, is to give people hope. Because once you have hope, that can be the single biggest difference. Once you just have just a little bit of hope. Yeah. Once again, to go back on Kai, nothing can be, Kai Kisuke from Guilty Gear, nothing can be done without hope. But with that said, we need to get out of here. Wow. This is a great conversation. I really appreciate both of you guys coming off for this. Look for one of our I think the next one will definitely be talking about the reason that Ifemar and I became close, which is my false allegation. Him and I became close from it.
I'm looking forward to talking about Shield Hero.
Yeah. The Amber Heard thing?
Yeah, Amber Heard, and Shield Hero. And so we're all going to bring that together along with
Did you watch Shield Hero?
Yeah, I watched Shield Hero. I'm up to date on it. Actually, bro, the beginning was a huge pop-off. Oh, yeah. That's later, guys.
Yep. This guy's trying to start another conversation.
No. Let's go.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review. To catch the latest news, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Black Nerd Talks. And if you enjoyed our latest episode, consider subscribing to the podcast. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.